audience is somewhat familiar with comScore. Is that a good assumption? Does everybody know what we basically do? That we are a research company, but we're really an analytics company. And part of what we do is we measure media, we measure transactions. We have a very, very large panel or group of panels of individuals worldwide. That gives us numbers in the U.S. and 44 other countries. In addition to the panel, we have a census network that tracks trillions of online transactions or communications on a daily basis. Another thing that I would like to point out is that I noticed that I'm the second woman speaking this morning, and that the other one was also from a research company, and that not all women are in marketing research. I just need to make that very, very clear. We've also talked about the fact that this marketplace is really fragmented. It's really complex, and it's something where there's a lot of talk about metrics, and yes, I agree. Metrics bring a big light onto the issues, but it's not easy. And I think we've talked about the complexity of the marketplace, the complexity of the technology, and the measurement moves right into all of that. It's just as complex, if not more so. Another thing that I wanted to just state up front is that the whole question of viewability is not something that I'm really prepared to talk about today. I'm really talking about taking a step and looking at what the consumer's doing and why the consumer's behavior is driving everything that we need to worry about. But viewability, I will throw right back to that man back there in terms of Randy Kilgore at the IAB, where comScore has worked with the industry bodies, the 3MS, the IAB, the 4As, the ANA, the MRC rather, in order to move forward with whatever standards have been provided. So we are working with those standards. There's going to be an awful lot of disagreement among the various constituents in the industry. We're just trying to do our best to continue to develop the technology to move in whatever direction the industry decides it ultimately wants to move. Okay? Okay. Okay. So with that, I'll get started. So I have a funny title here, Video Everyone. I'm not sure if that came from my marketing department or if it came from you guys. But what we're really talking about is how consumers move across screens, or really what the new normal is in terms of multi-device content consumption. I think that everybody in this room is certainly out there and aware of what's going on. Digital consumption used to be something that was very simple. You know, where everything happened on a PC, a desktop, or a laptop, and now it really doesn't happen quite so much that way, where we've got all of these other proliferating devices. In terms of some real numbers, I mean, we talk about everything that we need to take to the CMO and to talk about our enthusiasm for this medium. Well, look, there's some real numbers here that will wake people up if you shake them a little bit and say, yeah, you know, you cannot ignore this stuff. Excuse me. There are 120 million people with smartphones in the U.S. That is really tremendous, and tablet adoption is now at about 50 million. I think this number came in a little bit before the numbers were posted for post-holiday, so it's actually higher than that. And pay no attention to that curve in the blue, because that's the tablet number that appears to be flattening off. When you look at it this way, tablet ownership is growing at an absolutely unprecedented rate. It took smartphones almost 10 years to get to 100 million. Okay, look at the number, look at where we are and the duration of time that it's taken tablets to get to 40 million. So it's really phenomenal, and I don't know of any other device, entertainment device, where we've seen this kind of really, really rapid growth. Now, in terms of what's actually going on through the daytime and how these things are used, we do have the information available from our various panels and an integration of the data sources in places where we have common people, common threads across our panels. to take a look at the usage by day part. So definitely, you know, this slide says that mobile brightens the morning. It's with you on your commute. Actually, phones are appended to everybody's hip all day long. We all know that. That's how we work. PCs, not surprisingly, are dominant during the working day, and tablets really come into action in the evening. Now, the important thing is that that's just not the usage of the device. This is the same person moving through the day. And I think everybody here probably understands that and can relate to that fact. I myself was very happy to use my tablet last night when I discovered no television, and was not particularly impressed with the logs in my room. It's like, okay, so some Netflix will have to do. Okay, now in order to set this up and talk about what's really driving the consumer, you have to look at some of the specifics about the device trends. Particularly the smartphones and the tablets, and understand how the changes in portability, screen size, the advent of 4G, affordability, all drive adoption. Now, these are some numbers that I grabbed from, they're from a presentation with UK data, but the same is going on in the US. So you can just ignore the fine print at the bottom of the slide. Really what you're seeing here on the top, we have online video growth on the PC, and on the bottom in purple, you've got the video growth on mobile. And you can see that you've got a 300% growth in mobile video over the past year versus an 8% growth in terms of what's happening on the PC. Now, there's some differences in the scale of these two charts, but that's a huge development, despite the fact that the absolute numbers are still, as we've been talking about, you know, they're nowhere near television. But this is something you can't close your eyes to. In terms of the actual platforms, no surprises here. The consumer has really decided on Apple's iOS and Android platforms. BlackBerry's disappearing. The Android number it's got the dominant share position at this point. But when you think about what's going on in the tablet marketplace, I think people are surprised to see that Android still has the dominant position. Android is the light blue, iOS on the bottom is the dark blue, and this is a trend from April 2012 through December 2012. But the significant thing here that I want to talk about is the fact that of all of the brands all of the brands that fall into that Android bucket, there are many that you've never heard of, and many of them are dead on arrival. They just disappear. Kind of small up here. 53% are accessing social networking services. Some are playing video games, shopped online, and so forth. My point here is that this audience is here. They're watching TV. They're on social media. They're there and they're waiting for these second screen devices and the second screen applications. I think that there's a huge opportunity to refocus the ADD world and get them refocused on television content. Now, television content that might be complementary to what's actually on the screen, and hopefully complementary to what's in the commercial pod positions, but something that's definitely related and serves to expand the overall entertainment experience, a focused entertainment experience. From my point of view, that would be a real step forward for the industry. We'll see how that goes. Tablets are also the go-to device for mobile browsing. On this chart, you're looking at iPad. The two bars on the left represent iPad activity. The two on the right are iPhone. The light blue is the total app usage, which is the vast majority on both devices. But the darker blue bars represent the browser viewing, and you see that on the iPad it's a proportionally much larger size than it is on the iPhone. So you've got much larger proportion of the browsing, mobile browsing activity going on your iPad. It makes sense. It's a much better user experience. In terms of video, looking at some of the top apps for both the iPhone and the iPad again. This is pulled from some, this is, I'm sure, is custom data. I know there is considerable video popping in there in the iPad rankings with YouTube, Netflix. I'm giving Skype the benefit of the doubt. It's kind of like video when I watch my brother in Costa Rica, But I think you get the idea. Not something that anybody would refute. Okay, so that's what's going on with the devices and the behavior that we're seeing across the devices. In terms of measurement, I'm going to talk for a couple minutes about measurement and some of the recent developments that have happened. In the past, measurement for display usage, video usage, mobile usage within comScore have all come from separate silos. They've all tapped some of the same resources, but there have been methodological reasons, panel reasons, and a whole bunch of other arcane stuff that you don't want to hear about, why they were kept separately. These have now been consolidated so that we can find out how many people, what is the duplication across the various platforms for any particular media property. So hopefully we'll clarify some of these usage patterns and help you guys figure out what the right ad placements are and what the right things are to sell. In order to do this measurement, obviously you've got to have a few pieces in place. On the content side, you need to be able to measure the web pages, the video, and the applications. And on the device side, you need to be looking at computers, smartphones, and tablets, obviously, if that's what you want to measure. So who and how many consumers, who and how many consume any content across which platform? Okay, overall, the overall situation for duplication is that you've got 220 million who are using PCs, 113 million using smartphones, and 52 million on tablets. These are numbers from this panel, so they might be somewhat different from what I showed earlier, but they're good reasons for it. So the total unduplicated number is 230. Looking at this thing another way, you say, okay, how much of the reach is exclusively mobile? So how many incremental visitors come from the mobile channels? Can you see this, where the 93% of the audience is PC based? That's the dark blue. 7% is the slice that is exclusively mobile. But that's 15.7 million people. Okay, not a small number. Don't ever show that to your clients. They'll look at the 7% and they'll say, oh, so what? I don't need to worry about it. What you need to show them is this, is that smartphones, and that includes mobile here, and tablets drive 1 in 3 minutes spent online. So 37% of the usage is mobile, 63% comes from a PC, a desktop or a laptop. It's a pretty big number, and this is an eye chart, so I don't expect you to read it all, but you will see this number is going to vary. That ratio between the 37 is going to change and vary depending on the property and the kind of content that's available, obviously. But if you start by looking just at the top 20 digital properties, almost all of them have a double-digit mobile-only audience. Okay, so for example, for Google, 13% of the people that come into Google come exclusively through a mobile device. On Microsoft, it's much lower. It's only 4%. And then you go to the bottom of the right-hand column and you see Pandora, and wow, it's 61%. But it makes perfectly good sense, given how people are going to use the content. Okay, here I've got just a series of other kinds of examples of information that we're getting from this newly released data. Hopefully it gives you a taste of what's available. So which properties have the highest incremental audiences coming from the mobile channels? So basically what we've done is we've gone through and we've ranked, okay, who's got the highest composition that's mobile? And the sites that come up, you see Zynga, Pandora, Groupon, AccuWeather, New York Times. What's that doing there? Well, that makes perfect sense to me. I don't know if anybody. I've been running over the hard copy of the New York Times at the end of my driveway for several years now. So as I run to get on a train, but they were out in front of it. They've had the app since the very, very beginning. The app is a really good app, and it's for me, it's an everyday read. And I'm not just surprised to see them up there where they've got 77% of their audience is coming exclusively from mobile. That's great. And they're followed by others that you would expect to see, Instagram, Clear Channel, Tone Media, Twitter, whatever. But in any case, there are some surprises in this stuff, but a lot of it makes a lot of sense. ESPN is also noteworthy in there, where 41% of the audience is coming through mobile. Okay, so how many incremental viewers come from video? Wouldn't it be nice to tell your clients this? Just ignore that first site on there. That's a total video site, so it really doesn't mean much. But you can see the highest ranking is at 45%. Hulu's got 37%. Sony Online at 35%, and then the numbers get a little bit smaller in terms of the relative contribution. But I think what this says is that there is a large synergistic effect between the websites and the website text content or display content, if you will, and the video content. So many sites, you're going to have to go into the site, you're going to find out what's on, and then maybe you're going to watch the video on your PC, or then you're going to go to your app and watch that video, look for that video there. But there's a lot of play back and forth between the two pieces of the content. That makes sense? Steve, you're frowning. Okay. No frowning. Okay, so let's look at it for social media and just look at the mobile share. Social media is heavily used on mobile devices, so the 100% here represents tablets plus smartphones. And for the total internet, you see 67-33% split. Oops, I'm sorry. This is share of minutes on PC is the dark blue, share of minutes on the mobile total, but we're looking at social media sites. I'm sorry. You can see Foursquare is 99% mobile. Twitter, 70%. Facebook, 50%. LinkedIn is only 19%. So maybe that's because it's still primarily a business application, and it gets used on the desktop at work. I don't know. Tablet to the little kid and tell him to watch the video, the Disney video on the tablet, right? They all got the little, in my family, they all got the little iPads for Christmas, and they're all watching Disney on it. But you get the idea. Disney, you've got Discovery, Dow Jones, Weather, Demand Media, Everyday Health. New York Times Digital is at the bottom there, where you've got 80% on smartphones still, and 20% on tablets that are exclusive on tablets. Okay. I've got us almost back on time here. Just very quickly, a second about TV. comScore has definitely been working in the television space. We've done a lot of work with set-top box data. The vast majority of it has been proprietary up until this time. We're also working with a number of varying data sources. We're exploring all kinds of algorithmic solutions that are different than what you've probably thought about in the past. There was a comment on the last panel about the need for this consistent measurement consistent video measurement across platforms. I think the industry has all come to the same conclusion that it's going to be very, very difficult impossible. It's impossible to get that from a single source panel. You just can't have a panel that's large enough to give you representation across all of the fragmented activity. So our approach is really one of looking at what is the best available data source for any particular part of the media landscape, and how can those data parts be best combined together. So this is from a proprietary piece of research that we're really not supposed to share, so I'll stick this slide up here pretty quickly. This is in the next one. This was done for a somebody with some sports content that came across the television. The finding was this: TV is still king. That alternative screens are additive. That was a huge aha. Okay, that they're additive. They're not just duplicative. That the digital complements the television content, at least in live sports. Social media amplifies the events and engages viewers, at least in live sports. And cross-platform and simultaneous usage is the norm. Okay, so you might notice here that this was a very long sporting event. But in any case, the TV-only time spent was about 4 hours, and by the time you add in all the other digital components, it was over 8 hours. Done. That's as long as you can look at it. Okay, so hopefully I've given you a perspective on where the consumer is going and where the device adoption is headed. I've given you a small sample of some of the data that's available now that we have ready for cross-platform. Specifically, the cross-digital platform is more rich in terms of the data that can be provided, but there is tons more information either through your subscribed services or through the insights and custom papers that have been done by comScore, the comScore organization. So.
Thank you, Lynn. Anybody have any questions for Lynn? She's going to be leading one of the roundtables in 2 seconds. I wanted to ask if we have any, I know this would be anecdotal, or at least just from panel questions, but do we have any evidence that viewing habits in terms of long form are also fragmenting? That rather than just talk about platforms and where video is being viewed, how it's being viewed perhaps in more fragmented ways, where we're actually seeing people change their TV viewing habits so that those long forms actually are consumed in smaller and smaller chunks across a day.
I don't have anything definitive yet, but it's what the long form program providers want, and the work that will be done on it the initial work will be proprietary. I'm sure it'll be custom. If anybody's interested in pulling together a collaborative study on it, that would be another approach that might be valuable for something like the New Front.
Lynn, thank you very much.
Okay.
And as I said, Lynn is we're going to break for the roundtables now.